Either way, Bruce Brown. What are we hearing? Bruce Brown is expected to not really test, but get traded. They're expected to trade him. And for me, I think the crazy thing is when you look at a guy like Bruce Brown, you're surprised that a team like the Toronto Raptors want to trade him. Yes, I understand that. Shout out my coworker at Hoopside. Go read my work at Hoopside, by the way. But he's expected to be traded because he's $23 million, and he's the type of guy that teams look at like a six-man. Now, what teams are going to be going after him? I think teams, LA would probably like him. Either LA team. New York would like him, talking Knicks. I think Dallas would like him. Minnesota would like him. Miami would like him. I think Charlotte would like him. I think Atlanta would like him. Atlanta has money problems, so they probably wouldn't want to pay him. I mean, they would be willing to trade DeAndre Hunter into Bruce Brown, which could be a trade idea in its own right. And we'll do some trades right here in a second, which we can go ahead and do those trades. But I wanted to pull up what Bruce Brown is statistically, what you're getting, a multi-positional defender who's like 6'3", 6'4". It's the tale of two cities. So this past season, collectively between two teams, he averaged about 11 points, four and a half rebounds, 3 assists, about a steal a night, shot 47.8% from the field, 32% from three on 2.5 attempts a night, got to the free throw line about 2 times a game at 82%, true shooting of 56%. Now, Denver. In Denver, he put up a career high. I guess in Indiana, he's putting up 12 points a night, and he was shooting at 32%. But the real story is that in Denver, he's putting up 11.5 points, primarily off the bench, 4 rebounds, 3.5 assists, but he shot 36% almost on 3 attempts a game. And that's what you're hoping. So we're going to go over here to the trade machine and just hope that we can find a couple trades. Let me just make sure that everything looks groovy on this part. Yes, it looks groovy. All right. So how do we go about figuring out what can be established as true value? So I think when we look at the Raptors, again, we talked about the Hawks are a great example of a team that would be interested in Mr. Bruce Brown. He's an expiring deal, and they have a guy by the name of DeAndre Hunter and a guy by the name of AJ Griffin that they would like to get off. Right here, I think this would be a deal that personally, I think both parties would just kind of be cool with if they just did a straight up swap, because in this case, it would be Atlanta would save money and they would churn DeAndre Hunter into Bruce Brown, and they don't really like AJ Griffin to begin with. But I think they want assets, and they probably would want to trade him to the Western Conference. Now, what's a deal they could do? Well, that deal could be Chris Paul for Bruce Brown. Right there, that's a fantastic deal. And the Warriors, they would probably have to offer – they probably would want to keep that second-round pick, but they would probably have to offer several second-round picks to get him. And I don't think – and look at this, players cannot be aggregated in a trade. So you can do picks because they're in the second apron. So if they were to do this trade and do, let's say, I really think 3 seconds would get this deal done. And does this get them out of the second apron? The deal there, and then I think it would actually help them get them out of the second apron as it would do. But again, I don't think the Warriors give them the best deal. And for them, it would be a Western Conference team. Would the Timberwolves want to see if they can move some salary that they committed to? But there isn't really any salary that they can move that they committed to that is still there, that is movable. So for them, and again, they can't aggregate players in a trade. So you go down to the Grizzlies, and you're like, why the Grizzlies? Well, they have Luke Kennard, who's I think somebody that is of interest maybe. And then I think a guy like Santi Aldama, who I personally love Santi Aldama, but I think he's kind of probably outstayed his welcome. So for me, when you look at a situation like that, I think you look at Santi Alama and you look maybe because they could lose a guard, maybe they're curious to they could ask for like a Zaire Williams or somebody that maybe gives them a bit of value in terms of like a reclamation project. I guess Santi Alama in his own right would be a reclamation project, and I understand right there that finding that would be a bit harder than. One second, I just got to do this real quick. But I think that's what they're trying to figure out is who can be their reclamation project and give them. Okay, so I'm back. But what ended up happening was I needed to switch my input for what I'm using as like my microphone, and I went mute for a moment, and as a result, I'm back. But what I was saying was, in a deal for Bruce Brown, I would think no picks are going to be involved due to the fact that I don't believe Bruce Brown is a guy on an expiring deal on a somewhat overpaid contract who would be giving you a first round pick. So Santi Alama, Zaire Williams are two reclamation projects that you would get their, I believe, bird rights and their restricted free agency. And then Luke Kennard, if he accepts the team option, would then be like a very, very simple, I would say, kind of temporary 3-point shooting alleviation that you could maybe flip down the road. But yeah, I don't think you're going to have anything too crazy happen in this draft in terms of not draft, but offseason in terms of a Bruce Brown trade. I don't think anything crazy will happen. Now, let me, 1 second, guys. Is this going to give me an option for that or no? Ooh. Okay, no, still won't give me that option. So we're just going to continue rolling with my iMac microphone, which is fine. I don't think it sounds too bad, but so that should be good. But either way, to wrap up the whole Bruce Brown thing, I just don't think anybody's going to give a trade for a first round pick for him. I just think that's just asking for a lot. Now, what do we have? So let's continue to go through. I guess we have a bit more news. It's crazy to think about just like how much this offseason we've just seen already, just move after move in terms of player movement and the expectation of certain players are going to be. We already know which guys are going to be gone, which typically this early in this early in the offseason is not something that we know. So to me, it is always interesting to see how the roster or how the offseason is going to play out, especially from an outside view in. And this year, is there going to be a lot of movement? Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. Now, a guy that we're hearing who's going to get moved is a big man. One that we followed his career. As you guys know, I'm from Maryland, or my folks live in Maryland. I guess I'm technically from Maryland. I was born in Minnesota, living in Miami now, or north of Miami. I lived in Orlando at one point, and I've lived all over, ladies and gentlemen. So for me, it's definitely interesting to see this guy, Stick Smith, who potentially could be could be a sought after guy. I don't know how sought after he'd be because it is Stick Smith, and I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Stick Smith is, the best thing since dried paint, or not dried paint, sliced bread. But let's continue. And